Now, another case that has been discussed a bit, and I know this didn't go the way of many people, especially Second Amendment supporters, very frustrated. And again, we've been talking about cases predominantly today, not the cases that are going to be heard, although I do have some of those that I think are important to discuss, but on cases that the Supreme Court has decided not to hear. One happens in Maryland. And that's where we've got Tim Schmidt. He's the founder and president of the United States Concealed Carry Association. Joins us now. Tim, in Maryland, they're one of the few states that actually cracked down. I think California passed a few gun control limitations. I should say gun limitations after the Sandy Hook Elementary shooting. But Maryland actually went a little farther, and they put together a list of no-nos. And that's been challenged, right?
You're right, Chris. And from my perspective, Maryland banning assault weapons is akin to Maryland banning gravity. It literally makes no sense. I mean, the definition of assault weapon is really a scary-looking gun. Anyone in the gun community knows that there's numerous, completely legal firearms that have quote unquote more firepower than a scary-looking assault weapon, and they're trying to solve a problem. They're completely going the wrong way, and it's to me it's discerning. It's disheartening that the Supreme Court's not willing to look at this.
Talk to me about this. One of the things that was said in the appeals court, and this is the ruling that came down against the gun advocates. The ruling came down, and the ruling was Judge Robert King wrote, "We have no power to extend Second Amendment protections to weapons of war." How are we defining weapons of war? That seems like such a vague concept to me, because if we're fighting an enemy that's throwing rocks at us, a rock is a weapon of war, is it not?
Yeah, well, exactly, and so that goes back to this whole concept of assault weapons is purely a political term. It really has no impact on the firepower or efficacy of the weapon. Quite frankly, the efficacy of the weapon has a lot more to do with the person. And really what this is a step down the slippery slope of trying to get rid of all guns, period, which of course you and I both know that's impossible to do. I mean, there's over 300 million firearms in the U.S. and quite frankly, most of those are owned by responsible, law-abiding citizens, and they're owned to protect their families and loved ones. So these are just fringe cases, which unfortunately have a huge impact on a lot of people, especially the people that live in Maryland.
What is the impact then of the people in Maryland? How is it that they have been affected by not being able to possess? Although, I'm not sure on what the law is in Maryland. Are those who already own, are they grandfathered in? Do you know?
I don't know for a fact, but based on past cases, I'm sure they are. I mean,
okay.
if there was an all-out gun confiscation in Maryland, we'd certainly know about it. So I'm sure.
I would think so.
The people that currently own, quote unquote assault weapons are grandfathered in, and ultimately, I mean, this law does practically nothing, or honestly, I'll say absolutely nothing to stop any crimes. And if you look at across the country, the states and the cities that have the strictest quote-unquote gun control, I mean, these are the places that have the highest crimes anyway. So there's no correlation between high levels of attempting to control different types of weapons and crime that's committed. Quite frankly, it's just the opposite. The places that allow citizens to own rifles, to own quote-unquote assault rifles, these are the places that criminals don't want to go. And to me, it's a travesty. It's an abrogation of a natural-born right, not just a Second Amendment right, but a natural-born right.
Tim Schmidt is the founder and president of the United States Concealed Carry Association, and while we talk about a blow to gun owners in Maryland, there's no shortage of supporters of the Second Amendment and enthusiasts at that around the country. Black Friday comes and goes, and pretty good day for gun sales.
That's an amazing day. I was looking at the stats. I mean, we're talking about record-breaking. I think it was over 200,000 4473 requests, which are essentially the background check requests. And, there's talk about, is there fear about tougher gun laws? And I don't think that's the case, Chris. I think what's really going on is that more and more responsible Americans are realizing that they're the first line of defense. I mean, I'm not trying to put down our police officers. God bless those guys. I mean, people that are in law enforcement, that's a tough job. but they'll be the first ones to tell you that their job is really to clean up the mess. And the people on the front lines are truly the citizens. And more people are realizing that it's their responsibility to be that first line of defense for their families who, quite frankly, are counting on them.
Well, yeah, and not only that, but I kind of wonder, too, as we see, I don't know if it's blown out of proportion or if it's whatever the zeitgeist is right now, but when we hear the stories about violence, we have the conversations about gun control and gun rights and these sorts of things, I feel like there's a lot of this that's going on, and I hate to use the term because I don't like the singular plural that gets thrown around here, but a lot of this conversation going on in the media, is this having an effect that's actually serving as what we would call is this having an effect that's actually serving as what we would call earned advertising for firearms enthusiasts? It seems that the more we hear stories about crime in Chicago, for instance, the more we have people going, I'm going to investigate this whole gun ownership thing. I know the same thing. It happened to my wife. I mean, that's when she went and got her concealed carry, is when she, when we had a lot of stories going around about it.
Yeah, Chris, you're 100% on the mark there. Much to the chagrin of the anti-gun, folks, or as you said, the quote-unquote media. If you look at historically, for the last 30 years compared to the 30 years before that, there were significantly more mass shootings, significantly more gun crimes than there are today. That is just a fact. However, it seems like there's more today because, quite frankly, we're working. We live in the era of the 24-hour news cycle, and every single piece of bad news gets brought to the top, and so it appears that there's more violence, even though there's not. Now, quite frankly, I think that's good because I think what happens is that now you have more people that realize that, hey, I need to take that responsibility, become that armed American who can stop the crime, and that further causes crime to be suppressed. But I couldn't agree more with you. I really think that's an accurate assessment. Is there
kind of a push, and this comes from very recent personal experience here, is there sort of a push as we hear all this reporting, is there a push for community? I saw this last night. Let me just tell you a little personal story here. I'm sitting there helping my wife has a small business that we have in the house. And so I'm helping my wife with this business, which is dealing with spreadsheets, and I hate it. She's very good at it. I suck at it. I talk for a living. So anyway, she's trying to teach me spreadsheets, and you can imagine how much I hate that. All of a sudden, we hear the ghetto bird, the helicopter, the police helicopter going over the house. And we're thinking, that's strange. That doesn't happen very often. And then we hear over. So we go outside, and suddenly we can hear that. And the helicopter is saying, be on the lookout. There's a white male, 150 pounds, running east. He's wanted. If you see him, call 911. So all of a sudden, we start getting notices from next door, which is the social media neighborhood app, and then we go out to the front of the house, and all the neighbors are out going, "What was that? Did you see somebody?" We're all out there looking to protect our neighborhood, and I thought, I know that there are people out here who are armed that are protecting their families, protecting their neighborhoods against what is a known threat, because the police are chasing down a guy who he just robbed the pizza joint that was around the corner. And I thought, this is one of those stories where we've got so many people on edge about crime right now. Yeah. And I think that the good people in this country are saying, I can be a responsible gun owner, but I also have to be a responsible member of the community. And I'm going to come out and I'm going to help my neighbors when help is necessary. Yeah. That's what I'm picking up. But again, that may be anecdotal.
Well, it may be anecdotal, but I can tell you that it completely makes sense to me. And I mean, that's fantastic. You live in a community like that. And I think a lot of Americans live in communities like that where they want to help their neighbors. And man, there's absolutely nothing bad about that. And ultimately, the final effect of that sort of community, I guess, togetherness is that there will be a reduction in crime. And we're already seeing that reduction in crime because the only things that bad guys with guns, the only things they fear are good guys with guns. And, if I guarantee you that fellow that robbed, assuming it was an armed robbery of that pizza joint.
Yeah, I got more on it. Yeah. No, he's not. He's going to go away for a while. Yeah, they got him. No, neighbors called 911. They got him. Yeah, no, it was like this weird kind of transient guy who pretended to have a gun, but he didn't. But I think it still goes down as an armed robbery. So Yeah.
You shouldn't pretend you have a gun.
No, dummies. Goodness. Because, that's the other thing, too, is that for some reason we tend to give a lot of credit to criminals, don't we? I mean, when we talk about crime and we talk about things going on in neighborhood, we're like, oh, the criminals are going to get a hold of guns. And you're like, yeah, but criminals are dumb. And I think we have to keep that in mind. We lose sight of that so often. I don't know why we do.
I agree. You're right, man.
Tim, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for your time today. I just love talking to you, man. All right. Tim Schmidt, founder and president of the United States Concealed Carry Association. Great to have him on the program.